I hate 6x6. Not because it's a long event, not because you can get trivial parity, but because the hardware is bad. I've gotten 2 MGC6s in the past and both of them broke. At that point, most people would just give up on 6x6 and not practice it. And that's basically what I did. I never practiced 6x6 because the hardware was so bad and I ended up almost forgetting about the event. Until DFW Cubing Spring 2022. This competition had 6x6, and because I'm an all-rounder and I want to get my WCA profile as good as possible, I knew that this would be my chance to get a decent average and boost my sum of ranks. But, as I mentioned earlier, both of my MGCs were broken and there weren't any other better cubes in the market. I asked a friend if I could borrow his 6x6 at the comp, but then I realized that he wasn't going that day. So with no other choice, I bought a third MGC6. I didn't want to go through the trouble of setting it up, so I asked SES for a Unicube setup using Lunar and Comet. I probably shouldn't have used Comet because it's bad for big cubes, but oh well. Of course, huge thanks to SES for sending me the cube. My first impressions of the cube were initially pretty bad. No matter how well a 6x6 is set up, it's ultimately still a 6x6, an even layered large cube, and the hardware is bound to be bad. Mine was slow out of the box, and even after trying to break it in, it was still slow. This was my fault really, because I asked for Comet in the cube, which slowed it down. I practiced with it for a while and managed to get back to my peak, but not much further. I got my PB single to around 208 and was averaging about 230 to 240. I went into the comp not really expecting much from 6x6 as I had been practicing and focusing more on other events. While warming up, I suddenly got a 159 PB single and my first sub 2 solve, which was PB by nearly 10 seconds. I'm not really sure why I suddenly started getting way better times that day. My best guess was that I was turning more aggressively because of the comp mindset, and that worked better for my sluggish MGC6. And so, with this new PB set, I went into round 1 of 6x6. Immediately, my first solve was a 203.32. If I hadn't gotten the 159 earlier, this would have been overall PB by 5 seconds, which is absolutely insane. Unfortunately, I messed up the next 2 solves really badly and ended up failing the mean. But I made round 2, so I had another chance at a good mean. Round 2 was insane. My first 2 solves were 209 and 227, both of which were much faster than what I averaged at home. And my last solve was a 203.33, just a hundredth of a second slower than my single in the last round. Again, if it weren't for my earlier solves that day, this would have been overall PB, but instead it was PB3, which is still crazy. The mean ended up being a 213, which was overall PB by a few seconds. So basically, if it weren't for my sub 2 single in warm-up, I would have double overall PB'd in comp, which is pretty crazy to think about. My prediction was actually correct, and it couldn't have been done without my Unicube MGC6. So thanks again to Speedcube Shop for sending it to me. It really helped me in this comp, and I ended up getting 4th place. Thanks for watching the video, and goodbye.